Great good morning, everyone. It's 9/11 and change on my Cordaro Jewelers watch. This beautiful Monday, April 27th, 2026. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he. Broadcasting today from the United States of America. I can prove it because we've got a president that he just won't get taken out. It's also the place for the brave. Like the veterans we salute today, thanks to our man John Basiliga and his great Eastern roofing systems. We lost them this year, but celebrate them today thanks to John. Like George Butchie Bakos, Hazelton, Bruce Rock, Lake Quinn, Michael Lasher, Falls, Frank Ziggy Cernelia, Scranton, John Matika, Natticoke, and Norman Clancy, Harvey's Lake. The United States of America, founded with a certain knowledge and understanding by our amazing, irreplaceable, and profoundly wise founding fathers who knew that government should not be, could not be, cannot, and never shall be our parent, our guide, our direction, our salvation. Not any of these things. Because government power always means less freedom, less liberty, and less choice for Americans. These amazing founding fathers also knew that government power, because of human nature, should only be a necessary evil designed to protect an organized society. The United States of America, the country where for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be, by law, an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. Freedom couldn't be parceled out to groups. It couldn't be controlled by government or government officials because our great American Constitution ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press, no matter how they use it to lie. Now, because they were armed with these freedoms, and only because of that fact, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, many of them rejects from around the world, they and their progeny created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show will always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And yes, the double entendre is intended. And so, we gavel to order today's meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our total, immersive, immovable commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity to all of you who hearken here for the balance of this singular, extraordinary morning. A gentle warning, this is not a safe harbor for stupidity. Such foolishness, silliness, it'll be roundly and, dare I say, harshly attacked throughout the program. We will not suffer fools gladly, and their foolishness and ignorance, willful or otherwise, will be called out with intent, purpose, and vigor, designed and sadly necessary to save our great republic from evil, senselessness, and weakness, all of which can bring this noble and successful experiment down if we do not honor our obligations and aggressively oppose it. Most of us, that just means vote, damn it. Don't sit on the sidelines. That's all. And so here we are. A Monday, a beautiful Monday. And I've got to take a personal note. Last weekend, we lost a lovely soul. Mara Kavanaugh Meyer. She's Mark Mayer, who you know all about. We talk about him all the time. He sends us all kinds of information. He finds us music. He an invaluable contributor to the program and a great friend and a great conservative. Well, she passed away. And the family says that it's with deep love, respect, and gratitude that we announce the passing of our mother, Mara Mayer, known to many as Tootsie. And you're just knowing the character he is, this is perfect. Her dedication to family, friends, and faith is a cherished gift that will live forever in our hearts. She was predeceased by her husband, Hank, in 2016. She was a devoted mother, treasured grandmother, adored great mother, loving sister, cherished aunt, wonderful friend. Mara often caroled, "I love those dear hearts and gentle people that lived in her hometown." And that was evident as her smile graced the streets of Malvern. They're Long Island natives. She leaves a legacy of love and dedication that will not soon be forgotten. God bless you and keep you. The devil miss you. Sweet dreams. We love you. To Mara Mayer. And God bless her. And they have wake this afternoon and evening, and then they'll be at church services tomorrow. So our heart goes out to the whole Mayer family and our man Mark. God bless. God bless. I'm telling you. Have you ever met anybody nicknamed Tootsie that wasn't, the greatest person on the planet? No, you have not. And I guarantee you, his mom, Mark Mayer's mom, was the same. So I hope you all had a good weekend. I did. What was it? What did we do Friday night? I'm forgetting already. Am I? Was Friday? No, we stayed home Friday night. And then Saturday, or as Cutie says, Saturday, we went with the Palucci's. We went down to the casino. Our man, Mark, got, well, I don't know if he even helped, but we got a great table at Roots Chris. Great, fantastic dinner. Ran into a lot of great people. And you know who I ran into? Jolene Wortman. She was with husband John and with Alan Morrow and Dave and Beth Schuster, and Mark had come over to me, Mark Massetti. He came over and said, she listens, and I said, well, let me go say hello, which was great. It was just great to meet with them, say hello, and all that kind of thing. But we very, very enjoyable, and everybody having fun. And we went to after that, we went to Atera and then went downstairs to Sergei's. Cutie wanted to dance. It was Gabe who runs that whole outfit. It was his birthday, so we had an amazing time and too long of a time there. And then Sunday, you think about Tootsie Mayer, and I'm thinking it's always this end of life, beginning of life. We had the christening for my 5th grandchild, Olivia Ann Cordaro, my son Peter's daughter, he and his wife Allie. So we had it was just beautiful. It was just absolutely beautiful. The christening and the little lunch and all that kind of thing. And guess what? Cutie and I went back to Atera. She never gets enough food to eat, so she had to have their charcuterie, which is, it's ridiculous. It's like 2 meals. So great weekend. So you think of that, and that is life, isn't it? You have sadness and end of life with Tootsie Mayer, and you have the beginning of life with my granddaughter Olivia. It's just as it is, isn't it? It's what is. But God bless the Mayer family. That's tough stuff. And having lost Father Hank back in 2016, not easy. The end of a legacy. And God bless them all. And Mark had great friends. He gets the people to listen from literally all over the country. His old pals from Chaminade Chaminade quality athletes, and they listen, and a couple of them reached out and texted me to tell me that she had passed. So, God bless. We got to get out to the brick. John Menor and I were talking about that just today. We will. We want to spend some time with our guy. All right, we've got to take a break here. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We will return. The show dedicated to Mara Tootsie Mayer. That fires me up like nothing. I don't, Kevin James. Bulldog, does that cut off like that though? All right, we got to get a better version of it. I love that thing. And it's the way to start the show, and I keep forgetting. But for Tootsie, we're doing it, baby. So the assassination attempt is the news from the weekend. We've got a lot of stuff to do today. Of course, we got Monday Musings, and John Perillo's he's gonna talk about something cultural because it actually matters. And then we have Kalen Deese from the Washington Examiner at 11 o'clock hour. And then we're going to have the opening act for Saturday's amazing oldies show down at the Kirby, put on by Joe Nardone and all that. We've been talking to these people. Great stuff. By the way, speaking of great characters, for some reason, and I don't know why, my old late great friend Bobby Timlin, his name pops up on my telephone calendar. I don't know why that is, but I love it. It just reminds me of him, gives me a chance to think of him. One of the great characters. In fact, he reminds me of Mark Mayer in a lot of ways. Funny, hilarious guy. Anyway, so but that's what we're going to do. We got a lot to do today. Tomorrow, we're going to have Rick Bigelow talking about Aachen. And I told Rick, I said, Rick, we know, and we've got to continue to cover historically the big battles in World War II and otherwise. But we've got to cover the ones nobody knows about that were critical. Like we did Operation Market Garden. We did Scheldt. And now tomorrow's Aachen. And then I'm going to have my friend and neighbor tomorrow at 11, Shia Baraks. He's a doctor, and he and his wife have a home in Jerusalem. And I'm going to talk to him about what they went through and what they experienced being in Israel during all of this insanity. And I'm looking forward to that. I've talked to him a little bit, personally, but I want you to hear about it. It's fascinating. Absolute fascinating stuff. So anyway, shout out to Jolene Wertman. I hope you're listening. I said I need everybody's names. I want to mention them because it was just so nice to be with them on Saturday night. All right, we've got to take our break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We're going to hear from our great sponsors. Then we've got our first Veterans Tribute. We've got the weather, and then we've got more, as they always say. We'll be back. Our Veterans Tribute this hour, as with every hour, this day, as with every day, proudly, dutifully, brought to you by our man, John Basiliga. Today, we highlight his first company, his biggest company, Eastern Roofing Systems. The premier and one of the largest roofing contractors in the eastern United States for institutional, commercial, industrial purposes. And they take all that expertise, all that buying power, and they bring it to you here in Northeast Pennsylvania for your roofing project. It doesn't even matter if it's your house. They're here. And you get to take advantage. Eastern Roofing Systems. George Butchie Bakos. He was from Hazleton. He was 78 when we lost him April 10th. Born in Hazleton. Raised by his grandmother, the late Grace Black. Member of Our Lady of Peace Parish at Our Lady of Grace Church, Hazleton. Army veteran. George and his wife started their dream of running a pizza and Italian restaurant in 1986, which they named Giorgio's. Through the hard work of George and his wife, Ida, this year they're celebrating the 40th anniversary of being in business. He did also all his own work, maintenance work, and repairing all his rental apartments. And he was a professional roller skater as a younger man. Always cared for his workers and anyone that needed help. If there was something he was able to do, he was always there, along with wife Ida. Along with Ida, they helped raise their daughter's quadruplets. How about that? He'll be greatly missed by his favorite grandchildren, John Jr. and Luciano. Surviving are his wife of 54 years, the former Ida DiBlasi, his daughter, his son, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, sister, brothers, nieces, nephews, other family. George Butchie Bakos. Bruce Rock. He was from Lake Quinn. He was 80 when we lost him April 6th, surrounded at home by his family. He's survived by his wife, Elsie McDonald Rock. Born in Carbondale and raised in German. Son of the late Edward and Helen Bruce Rock. He attended Sacred Heart Grade School German and was a graduate of St. Rose High School, Carbondale. He obtained his bachelor's degree from LaSalle University and completed graduate work at Temple. He served this country during the Vietnam War as a Navy corpsman, serving with the United States Marine Corps 1st Recon Battalion. He was combat wounded and field decorated, being awarded 3 Purple Hearts and a presidential citation. He was a member of the Special Management and Review Team for procurement and placement of major weapon systems for the United States and allies. Prior to retirement, he was the owner and operator of the Stone House, located outside of Carbondale on Route 106 for over 29 years. In addition to his wife surviving, 2 sons, a daughter, 4 grandchildren, nieces, nephews, other family members. Bruce Rock, our great veterans this hour. Brought to you by John Basiliga and Eastern Roofing Systems. Oh, we know what that sounder means. It means the weather. It means Montage Mountain and the AccuWeather forecast. Today, sunny to partly cloudy and pleasant, high of 75. We're at 55 at Montage Mountain as I speak. Tonight, clear to partly cloudy, low 44. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and cooler. A couple of showers in the afternoon, high 64, low 49. Wednesday, cloudy with a couple of showers in the afternoon, high 62, low 48. Thursday, cloudy and breezy, high 55, low 35. Friday, windy with sun and some clouds, high 57, low 37. So it's sort of, not a great forecast, but it still means there's tons of things going on at Montage Mountain. So you got to get up there. Check it out. It's just a great place to have a cocktail. It's a great place to have the Wagyu burger, all of that. That's your weather, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain Resort. I could listen to that all day. This date, 1963. 15 years, 1 month, and 13 days old. Little Peggy March became the youngest female singer to have a number one hit with I Will Follow Him. Huh. I wonder what Tootsie and Hank Mayer were up to when that song came out. 1963, April 27th. How about that? So, yeah, we're back. And you could reach me, by the way, 570-883-0098. Now, somebody texted, Joe from Trips Park said, who needs coffee with an intro like that to fire us up? And that, by the way, that was Ken Langone. I met him through Bo Dietl. He, the former head of and founder of Home Depot, and a straight shooter. And I mean, he came around just like Bo did, by the way. 180-degree switch on Trump. And they're happy they switched. And they're happy they get it. And embedded in that little clip with Joe Kernan, who I love at CNBC. He said, well, I don't know if he said these exact words, but something to the effect of, well, wisdom and knowledge is the ability to admit you were wrong about something. And he said, and I was. Amazing. Somebody texted in, this was all the Democrats' fault, what happened at the correspondents' dinner Saturday night. The Democrats refused to fund Homeland Security. Democrats are waiting for innocent Americans to die like 9/11, all because they want their voter and census base, which are illegal immigrants, to stay in America. They do. I mean, I'm not going to blame them for the attempt, but I want you to keep in mind, this person was a teacher. And we've talked about teachers even locally posting pure insanity which they've been immersed in because of the horrible National Teachers Union and their sick, twisted ideology. So this person was willing to blow up his life on a kamikaze mission. Unfortunately, and I mean this, unfortunately, he's not dead. So we had to pay him as taxpayers as a horrible teacher, which I guarantee he was, as a sick individual. And now we're going to have to pay to feed him and house him in prison. Unreal. From Rich McHale, he says, morning, Bob. Congratulations on your newest grandchild. Just a question. How can we petition the removal of Jimmy Kimmel? This sack of rotting flesh needs to go now. I say this, Rich, and I say it with all sincerity, partly because there's nothing we can do about it. But the fact is that we need these idiots to show the normal people who are still voting Democrat what they're voting for. I mean, here's a clown. I mean, he's an absolute fool. Here's a fool who's promoting Eric Swalwell and his candidacy for governor. Right in the midst of Swalwell being a complete scumbag. This is how dumb these people are. They really are. They're very clever. In some cases, very smart, but their idiocy comes through sooner or later. Rich, I think we need fools like that. But he's not a good person. He's a sick, sick bastard. He is. So just remember what Disney has become, the owners of ABC. And remember what they've become. So I think he's living testament to the sickness of the Democrat Party and the left. And we need him out there. We really do. And there's not much we can do about it anyway. Those decisions are not made at our level, are they? Anyway, we got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK, program dedicated to Tootsie Meyer. We'll be back. Love that song. This date, 1968. Yeah, continue it, Bulldog. Keep playing it. Bobby Goldsboro, number one hit, and you can tell why. This date, 1968, and a crazy year. 1968 was a crazy year. Not only the assassinations of Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, the election. We had something called, what? Oh, that... I can't even believe this mind is not working well. But they had a flu very much like and even more fatal to all kinds of people, not just people with proclivities like the COVID. It was worse than COVID. At least 100,000 people didn't die with COVID or this Asian flu. They died because of it. Big difference. And everything just kept going. They said, okay, be careful. Try not to get it. We're not going to shut down the world. Navy guy says, you trying to get me teary-eyed with that song? Well, we're devoting the program to Tootsie Mayer, and I don't know. I just for somebody I didn't know, I know her. I know her. Really. Somebody bringing up the quote that I mentioned last week. And it bears repeating. Dear Bob, ALTS, meaning always loved the show. AOC quote, the Republicans are trying to rig the elections by allowing only American citizens to vote. She actually said this. And that's Paige Cognetti's dying to join the squad. And for the sake of humanity, we can't let her. We got to reelect Rob Bresnahan. I drive on my street every day, and I'm like, this incompetence cannot be rewarded. This insane incompetence cannot be rewarded. I want to remind you again. On my block, it was like Fallujah after a strafing. So, bum-ba-da-boom-ba-da-bum-ba-da-bum-ba-da-bump. They then paint. The mayor paints crosswalks over the wreckage that is my street. They then dig up those crosswalks and patch. Then they dig up the patching, which did very little good, by the way, and they grade. Then they dig up again and patch again. It's the most incompetent paving job I've ever seen in my life. And by the way, I oversaw hundreds of miles of road for Lackawanna County as commissioner. We did this stuff. So not only was it not done in coordination with the pave cuts by the utilities, it was done and redone and redone and redone. You could still see some paint from the crosswalk she had done last fall. It's lunacy. It's incompetence at industrial grade. Or as Jimmy Fallon says, weapons grade stupidity. It's insane. And now we're here. We're still looking at it. The entire street torn up then torn up again, then crosswalks, then torn up again, then patched again, and now we're waiting for the pavement for weeks now. It's insane. Well, I look up and I look down, and my Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it's 10 o'clock. That means it's time for the news with Brian Hughes. Let's do that, and then we'll come back with John Perillo, Monday Musings. Great good morning, everyone. My Picardo's Jeweler watch tells me it is 10:05 a.m. this beautiful Monday, April 27, 2026, here in the great Northeast. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and honor with the help of our man John Basiliga and his great Eastern Roofing Systems, the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we've lost this year, but celebrate today thanks to John, like Bruce Rock, Lake Quinn, George Butchie Bakos, Hazelton, Michael Lasher, Falls, Frank Ziggy Chernelia, Scranton, John Matika, Bow of Nanticoke, and Norman Clancy of Harvey's Lake. So with history, our amazing founding fathers, who we will not allow to be canceled, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising that our deep and unalterable commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity to all of you who hearken here. Well, I'm in a lather. Yeah, we got to find that Kevin James thing in full. Bulldog, make that effort while we're doing this program, because I love that thing. Bob Cordaro back with you. Somebody texted, Bob, the whole pavement on your road deal is like listening to the Best of Bob show. You keep repeating the same old thing. It's not the same old thing. It's weapons-grade incompetence. Painting the lines. Apparently, you're going to make me repeat it again now. Mayor Cognetti painted the crosswalks, then patched, then tore up the patching, then graded, then tore up and created more holes and patched those. And now we're waiting for pavement. This is insanity. It's not like other roads. Drive through Greenridge. I was at the Greenridge Club yesterday for the christening event. This is Fallujah after a strafing. It isn't just how it is. It's weapons-grade incompetence by Mayor Cognetti, who wants to be a congressperson who's dying to join the squad. And tell us about pieces of this and pieces of that. No. This is existential to not have incompetent people rise. In any event. It's Monday. Well, what does that mean almost every Monday? It means it's time for Monday Musings with our guy, John Perillo, who claims that the song Honey, it struck such an emotional chord that he called the wrong phone number to come online with us today. But here he is nevertheless overcoming his sentimentality, our man, John Perillo.
Bob, that was depressing. Thank you. That was rough. Oh, my goodness. No wonder I was a Rolling
You
Stones
can't
fan.
tell me that song doesn't bring tears to your eyes.
I recognize the time period, but I was probably listening to the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin at the time.
So was I.
Yeah, completely missed that.
I was a little kid. I was listening to Steppenwolf back then.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, a little bit of that, maybe Deep Purple. So anyway, yeah, I wouldn't have listened to that. That would have been a dial roll to me. But okay. I appreciate you putting it on. But we had a very exciting weekend, obviously, in the news, and I know Bob had mentioned this story, but I wanted to dig into a podcast last week that included a socialist social media influencer, a guy named Hassan Piker, and Gia Tolentino, who's a writer for The New Yorker and New York Times editor, and Nadja Spiegelman, And they were discussing the ethics of taking food from Whole Foods and other what I would call fashionable crimes, and how they saw it as a way to take back some power from capitalists who, profit from other people's labor, just like Vladimir Lenin would have said, the guy who started Soviet communism, which eventually killed something like around 50 million people. And in fairness, they lost count, so we don't really know how many it was. But again, this writer for the New Yorker is a millionaire, lives in a private walk-up in New York, and a New York Times editor pays a living wage for New York City. So neither of these people that are discussing stealing for any reason except to stick it to the man, whatever that means. And the phrase that the Times editor, Ms. Spielman, used was micro-looting, and I thought that was a pretty cute phrase. But anyway, there's a woman, Susie Weiss, who wrote about this, and I thought I'd use her essay as a jumping-off point for some observations, my version, if you will, of her observations. And some of you might recognize this story, but in your own lives. But when I was growing up, we had to eat what was put on our plates, period. Not if we didn't eat it, we didn't get dessert. Not we had to try a bite of everything. If my mother put it on the plate, we had to eat it. Mm-hmm. And this was such an ironclad rule that when I got to the Naval Academy, I was there for months before I realized they didn't actually have to eat lima beans anymore. I'm dead serious. And I suspect that there are a couple of reasons for that Perillo household rule. My parents were Depression-era parents, and they didn't go hungry, right? But they didn't take food for granted either. My father also probably saw that as a sign of respect for my mother. And turning your nose up to food was being ungrateful to the Creator who provided it and to whom you just said grace, right? So for several reasons, I grew up with that rule, and it translated into every part of our lives. So you took care of everything you had because you didn't go back to my dad and ask for a second of anything that you had ruined because you were careless. It's just the way it was. And I think calling that money worship would be incorrect. It wasn't that. It was a respect for material things because they represented either blessings or labor or the quote, I can live without it, that my mom would have said so we children could have had something or whatever. But everything had value, and we never took it for granted, and I still don't. And as a result, I don't take other people's stuff for granted either, because that stuff that they have represents their work or their grace or something they did without in order to provide. So when I read Miss Weiss's story about this episode and listened to this influencer named Piker talk about micro-looting, which I would translate to
total ass.
Yeah, I would translate that to stealing, right? And when I think about that, my parents' 3-bedroom, 1-bath home pops into my mind. Our social media socialist influencer, Mr. Piker, had just come back from a trip to Cuba, wearing clothes, oh, by the way, that none of the victims of the socialism that he supports could ever hope to own. So while he and the New Yorker writer Gia Tolentino are talking about why it's okay to steal from the Louvre Museum in Paris and Whole Foods, for instance, because, and let's hear from them, quoting the title of and subtitle of their piece, quote, "The rich don't play by the rules, so why should I?" And the subhead of that title was, "Why petty theft might be the new political protest."
Dear God.
And I go back and think about our piece a little while ago about the murder of Brian Thompson, the healthcare executive who was shot, and how Luigiism, named after Luigi, the guy who shot him, was taking over. This kind of idea that a person is at least partially justified in shooting Mr. Thompson, and again, think about this in light of this weekend's activities, because the policies of United Healthcare aren't everyone's liking, and that somehow justifies him being shot. Ms. Weiss mentions that Piker doesn't exactly go so far as to say that the killing of Brian Thompson was okay, but she quotes him as saying Thompson committed a, quote, tremendous amount of social murder through the, quote, systemized form of violence, the structural violence of poverty. Well, there you go. Okay. They decided that it was okay to steal from Whole Foods because Jeff Bezos was rich, but they have to refine moral code because they also said it was wrong to steal a book from a public library or to drink from a disposable plastic cup. So at least they're moral that way, right? So Piker goes on to say, quote, "We've got to get back to the cool crimes like that. Bank robberies, stealing priceless artifacts, things of that nature. I feel like that's way cooler than the 7,000th new cryptocurrency scheme that people are engaging in." Interesting, apparently, that stealing is cool if you're talking about a Monet, but less so than if you're talking about a Chinese hacker, right? This is the morality of these three people that are talking in a New York Times podcast. These are not some yahoos out there, right? So
well, they are. They're actually mentally ill. They need treatment.
Okay. Right. Well, and to your point, we aren't talking about somebody stealing milk for their kids, although that's a separate topic that I won't address here. Like you just said, these are multimillionaires who will pay no consequence for what they do. The maximum fine for shoplifting in New York is $1,000. That's pocket change for these people. And besides, they send out for their groceries anyway. They want to be boutique criminals. They want to wear this as a badge of their progressive protest and to show that they are way cooler than me, which is an admittedly low bar. Right? And here we get to the biggest issue. Leaving aside for 1 second the moral implications, the people who advocate for permissivism, right, a society that permits everything and tolerates an absence of morality, they never have to live with the consequences of what they want. Right? There's a Latin phrase out there, which I really like, que bono, which basically means who benefits, right? And it's a way to look at ideas. Once you ask the question, who benefits, you get to understand why this or that tax policy happens, or why this or that criminal activity happens, right? Because you can look at how that benefits a certain people or a group of people and understand how it came to being. But there's a corollary that my sister talks about, which is not who benefits, but who pays.
Yeah.
Right? The legislatures out here, for an example, who release wolves onto ranch lands aren't the ones who have to shoot some poor half-eaten cow left wandering around or figuring out what to do with the now newly orphaned calf, right? The people up in Boulder who make these decisions, they don't have to live with the consequences of it, right? Jeff Bezos doesn't care if these yahoos steal some lemons, which was the crime in question. But the checkout person in the store who really needs that job might care, right? Tolentino said, for instance, that it would be okay to blow up some pipelines. That's within the realm of okay, right? Well, yeah, if you're rich, what you do, what do you care about that? But to some union welder whose job is on the line, they might care, right? And yes, I understand that this limousine socialist is more important than the people he claims to fight for, so it really doesn't matter, does it? Right? That's the logic that we have out there. And in this same podcast, they discussed the burning of a Kimberly-Clark warehouse in Canada to protest low wages. That was a 1.2 million square foot facility, and it was apparently okay to do that to make a statement. But if you were an employee there who now doesn't have a job because your warehouse was burned, it might matter to you, right? Que bono, yes, but who pays? Who suffers from this decision? And in this case, it's not the rich people. It's the person in the warehouse who might need that job. And if a society says it's okay to do what these two are discussing, and remember, again, this is the New Yorker and the New York Times. These aren't fringe publications, right? Then the guardrails that the Hebrews put in place 6,000 years ago mean nothing. And we are headed back to rule by those who could impose their will. And among the many things I'm amazed that I now have to say, and as Bob and I have discussed many times, I'm amazed at how many times I have to say weird things. Burning down a warehouse doesn't say anything about that employer's wages. And shooting a CEO doesn't say anything about that healthcare company's policies. And stealing lemons doesn't say anything about Whole Foods. What it does say is something about you. If you're the one doing these things, you have lost your moral bearings. And back to our rather common theme on this segment here, even if you don't believe in the divinity of the Ten Commandments, they are the minimal requirements for an ordered society, which is why their destruction bothers me so much. What these wealthy boutique socialists are advocating for is a destruction of civilization. And I'll keep saying it. There are places in this world today where lying on behalf of tribe or family is considered noble, and there are places on the earth today where killing in order to avenge an insult is considered noble. The belief that it couldn't happen here is something called normalcy bias. You can't imagine a world like that, so you assume it could never happen here, and you're wrong. It can. So remember our piece where we discussed the meaning of the tree of knowledge of good and evil from the biblical story of the Garden of Eden, right? The temptation was not that people would gain some divine understanding of right and wrong, but rather that they would want to be divine themselves and decide for themselves what is right and wrong. Right? That's what you're seeing in this podcast. And be careful what you wish for, because in the absence of some more significant authority, what you get is these knuckleheads in New York telling you what's right and wrong.
Sad stuff. Johnny Perillo, thank you as always. I appreciate it. Monday Musings with John Perillo. A cultural rot that needs to be pointed out. So-called leaders and so-called leading publications, it just proves they're sick.
Yeah, and then let's please go back to the music, that isn't cultural rot, like, Zeppelin and things like that. Okay.
You know it. All right. John,
All
thank
right.
you very
Thank you,
much.
Bob. Have a great day.
You have a
Yes.
great week,
Thank
brother.
you to you and your listeners. Have
All
a
right.
great week, too. Take care.
All right, man. We'll take a break. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Elton John. Murph tells us he released his first single, Border Song, this date, 1970. And what a great song it was and is. Somebody takes in, Dear Bob ALTS. This past Friday, you started to talk about the song Runaway when you got sidetracked with your shirt. That about sums up the show, doesn't it? And by the way, I am wearing, and we want to thank our friends at Roach Supply. It's the premier bath and kitchen supplier in Northeast Pennsylvania. Roach Supply Honesdale, Chapman Supply Clark Summit, 75 years in business. RoachSupply.com, ROCHE. 75 years of business means they're great at what they do. Means they're fair to deal with. Means they deliver. That's what 75 years mean. Love it. Roach Supply. But they're bringing the live stream where I am wearing my all-time great shirt. This gorgeous flag. Love it. Anyway, the runaway thing was this simple. There was a show called Crime Story. Dennis Farina. And a couple actors I can't remember. The guy who played Dr. No was in it at different points. And it was about Chicago, then Vegas. That's what I was going to talk about, the show Crime Story, one of my favorites. So thank you for reminding me of that. Hey, let's go to the phones. We got Bill from Pittston. Bill, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Loved your last interview. I would also like to ask you about Hassan Piker, but before that, I'm doing research on Paige Cognetti, and I was looking at an interview from 4 years ago on Channel 10 in Philadelphia. It was so orchestrated, and you could see laying down tracks for where she's at today. She creeped me out because, like I said, it looks staged.
Oh, it's all phony. It's all phony.
And she looks like Hillary Clinton, a young Hillary Clinton with the same methodology.
See, to me, if let's say you're a left-wing lunatic and you want to vote for left-wing lunatic policies, okay, Paige Cognetti, she's your gal. Rob Bresnahan's normal. He's effective. But then you go to her. She's got a job now. She had a job as school director. She was incompetent and quit that, ran away. By the way, after she voted to fire 81 teachers. Yet she has the teacher union endorsement. This is the kind of insanity that the left and today's Democrat Party brings to you. But that's why I keep talking about my street, which is a story told all over the city. It's rank incompetence on top of the left-wing lunacy.
And what you're saying is exactly right, lunacy. And your previous guest was talking the loss of morality. The sad thing is these wackos that are voting for the left and creating people like that, Hassan Piker, who advocates murder, justifies these murders of executives, the morality has shifted. They think what typically is immoral to be moral. And that's how sick and twisted this is.
Yep.
As a normal person, how do you deal with somebody that's mentally insane?
Well, you turn to the sanctuary of sanity here, and we try to keep things on the right track because there's pure insanity all around us, and it has enveloped the Democrat Party, sadly.
The other solution is get out and campaign for Rob Bresnahan and people that instead of complaining, like people just complain. You go to coffee houses, you go to McDonald's where small groups gather together. They're all complaining about these crazy Democrats, but they don't do anything. They've got to get up, get out and vote, and get other people to vote. Otherwise, we're going to get more of the same.
Amen. Amen. You know it. And let me say this. Paige Cognetti's not the answer for Scranton, certainly not for this country.
If she can't run a city, how's she going to move up the chain?
Well, that's what they do. They fall up the stairs like Joe Biden. That's what they do. Think of Joe Biden, the level of incompetence that he demonstrated throughout his career, and yet he becomes president of the United States. It's insane. So we've got to get out and vote, period. Normal people.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, Bill. Thank you as always. Hey, we want to hear from our great sponsors. We'll come back with our Veterans Tribute. We've got much more to do. The weather brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain. And then you at 570-883-0098 to call or to text. Our Veterans Tribute, brought to you always, every day, every hour, by our man John Basiliga. Today, it's Monday. We run and talk about Eastern Roofing Systems, his first company, his biggest company. The premier roofing contractor in the eastern United States, industrial, commercial, institutional. They're headquartered in Jessup, so they bring all that expertise, all that buying power right here to Northeast Pennsylvania for your building, your project, or your home. Eastern Roofing Systems. Bruce Lasher. We lost him April 7th. He was from Falls. He was but 78 years old, survived by his beloved wife, Kathleen. They'd been married for 55 years. Born in Utica, New York, graduate of Oriskany Central School. He then attended Mohawk Valley Community College, SUNY Binghamton, and Marywood University, where he earned his bachelor's degree. He worked as project manager for the former Weston Components, now Schlumberger of Einan. A proud U.S. veteran, Michael served in the Navy during the Vietnam War before receiving his honorable discharge. As a proud veteran, he was actively involved in the development of the Veterans of the Vietnam War in Pittston. He believed that his responsibility to foster continued support of veterans and to work tirelessly on their behalf. Mike found great joy in sharing his knowledge and skills with others. He was a Renaissance man. He served as a dedicated 4-H mentor, a passionate master gardener, a carpenter. He brought craftsmanship to every project. Fishing, boating, St. Lawrence River, all important to him. In addition to his many practical talents, Mike had a deep appreciation for the arts expressing himself through painting and photography. Along with Kathleen, his wife, he's also survived by his 3 loving daughters and their spouses, 3 grandchildren, brothers, sisters, and other family members. Michael Lasher. And now my old buddy, Frank Ziggy Chernelia. He was 96 when we lost him March 31st. He was from Scranton. Surviving to cherish his memory, his wife of 72 years, the former Angie Resigno. Also, his daughter Ann Arcuri, husband Gino of Moscow, and his son John, with his wife Maureen of Wake Forest, North Carolina. Also, 5 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren. Frank worked for many years for the A&P Produce in the Scranton School District. After retirement, he went back to work part-time as a greeter and driver for a number of local funeral homes. That's where I got to know him, most notably Carl Savino in West Scranton. For 40-plus years, league secretary and bowler for Local 229 League. That's the Teamsters. He served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War. A kind, gentle man, Frank was a devoted Catholic and lifelong parishioner of St. Lucy's Church, West Scranton. His faithfulness to family and friends was the way Frank lived his long, rich life. Ziggy, you will be missed. Frank Chernelia. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by our man, John Basiliga, and the Great Eastern Roofing Systems. AccuWeather forecast brought to you by the great gang at Montage Mountain Resort. Today, sunny to partly cloudy and pleasant, high 75. Tonight, clear to partly cloudy, low 44. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and cooler, couple of showers in the afternoon, high 64, low 49. Wednesday, cloudy with a couple of showers in the afternoon, high 62, low 48. Thursday, cloudy and breezy, 55 degrees with a low of 35. Friday, windy with sun and some clouds. 57 is the high, a low of 37. And that's your AccuWeather forecast brought to you by the gang at Montage Mountain Resort. And don't forget, you can still get those deals on ski tickets or season passes. Don't forget that. They're not closed. They're there. They're making it happen. They're swinging into spring at Montage Mountain. The indefensible insanity of the left and the Democrat Party, which is a party right now built on lies, based on lies. By the way, my man Tony says Trump's 60-minute interview last night owned Norah O'Donnell. He used the liberal platform of CBS and 60 Minutes masterfully, he says. Well, this is the Stones. Murph telling us. Brown Sugar, released this date, 1971. Their first 45, remember 45 records on the new Rolling Stone records. Not bad. Bob Cordaro back with you on WILK. The The friends of Paige Cognetti told me she's going on a nonstop paving project for the city of Scranton. Street to street, no potholes will be left unfilled. The paving project for the entire city of Scranton will end the last week of October 2026. I wonder why. The November midterms? It's so phony. It's insane. Nuts. Somebody takes in, Bob, I recently spoke with a friend who currently lives in New York State. Her grandson is in the high school band. They went on a trip to Florida, Disney, etc. There were about 40 students. Well, the kids were 4 to a room. In her grandson's group was a girl transitioning to a boy. The school let her stay in the same room, use the same bathroom, undress, etc. with these young males. How crazy has this society become? I'm so disturbed by this. The kid is still a girl. And her parents are nuts, obviously. It's unbelievable. It's sad stuff. Somebody pointing out hate speech is not illegal. Yeah, because it's in the eye of the beholder. But the thing you need to do is defend common sense. And as I tell some of the left-wing lunatics that listen to the program, and by the way, we do deep down love you, as we tell them when they say, oh, that's hate speech, Bob, I say, well, because you hate it doesn't mean it's hate speech. So it is the ear and eye of the beholder. But I've got to say, these people are sick. And this is the tip of the spear for the Democrat Party. And remember where we are at. There are the millions who are sucking the teat of government and want more government. The USAID crowd, the nonprofits, the NGOs, the foundations. Remember who they are. And just as was said earlier in one of the clips we played, none of the USAID money, which is supposed to be foreign aid, ever made it out of the country. It went through nonprofits who were paying their people big money. It went through NGOs who were paying their people big money. And then the font of it all is not just government spending, but then the billionaires, the Soros gang, Paige Cognetti's friends. Arabella Group, Singham, billionaires who profess profound hatred for this country. And those billions of dollars that they put to work for the left, for whether they're paying for protests, signs at protests, logistics, all ginned up, all phony. Now we find out Southern Poverty Law Center was paying racists to be more racist. This is who these nuts are. And they own the Democrat Party because that's where the money comes from. Unbelievable. All right. Let's hear from our great sponsors. And we'll come back. We got a lot to do. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. I always thought this was Peter Gabriel. Murph says this date, 1981, Power Station moved into the top 10 charts at number 8 with their hit, Some Like It Hot. And before that, Hubert Humphrey. I liked Hubert. He got so much abuse from that slimeball LBJ. 1968, though, this date, Humphrey declared his candidacy for Democrat nomination for president. Less than a month after LBJ said he would not run for re-election. That was a TV ad for Hubert. Bob Cordaro back with you on the eponymous program. Mother Teresa, St. Teresa for April 27th. She says, if you are really humble, if you realize how small you are and how much you need God, then you cannot fail. St. Teresa for April 27th. And what did St. Teresa do? The little things that no one else would do to the poorest of the poor. I always say it. The crushing poverty that she dealt with in India is like nothing you've ever seen, nothing you've ever experienced. And she headlong devoted her life to it and got others to devote their lives. So amazing. And again, really how small she is. Look at how big she's become. Our Viking texting in something the LBJ. He said he read where LBJ used to hunt out on his ranch out of a convertible Lincoln and to shoot deer. He'd let them lay there and have his Mexican workers pick them up. Yeah, that's LBJ. That is that slime ball. Awful, awful human being. Somebody says, one of our listeners, he says, the Democrat Party funding the Klan since 1865. Yes, they have been. And then Democrats were more upset with Hegseth giving steak and lobster to our military than the liberal NGO, the Southern Poverty Law Center, giving donations to the KKK. Let that one sink in. You're 100% right. Somebody else texts in, Bob, everything the Democrat Party and left does is manufactured to expand their power base. Paid hate protests like Charlottesville, Virginia. Wide open borders so illegals can vote. And by the way, not so much so they could vote. Enough of them vote. More than should, obviously. But becoming part of the census, as you point out, is the key. And here's the insanity of this. They want to count illegals because they're driving legal Americans out of their communities and cities and states with horrendous policies that fail everybody. There's no way they don't know that. They've got to fill it in with illegals. The listener continues, transgender, which was only 0.2% around 12 years ago, is now 2.88 million, 1% of the population, all because of their hemorrhaging Black and Latino voters. The Democrat Party needs bodies to stay in power, nothing to do with the taxpayers or hardworking American people who left the insane Democrat Party. They did. Somebody says Biden stolen valor, hometown banner for Paige and Billy. That's Paige Cognetti. Oh, loves Joe Biden. Got us a street and a expressway named after him. So did Billy Gaughan when they were together on ruining the city together. Now they're ruining the city and the county as much as they can. I said, are we honoring the jackass Joe Biden? What day? I think we're 133, Bulldog. If you know. We got to figure it out because we got to run it as we approach the end of the hour. Oh, Lord. My man John Perillo sent me a thing. Erica Kirk was apparently at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Wow. I mean, and she just said, I want to go home. I want to go home. We'll try to find that clip and play it for you maybe tomorrow. Isn't that stunning? She watched her son or her husband assassinated on live TV, and then another shooting incident by these sick leftos. It's unreal. Hey, Bob LTS, on the brighter side of the news, it was on this date, April 27, 2014. I did not know that, Johnny Carson would say. Pope John Paul II was canonized a saint by Pope Benedict. Rich in West Pittston, thank you for that. Oh, and by the way, we got this announcement at church prior to the christening. Now, Dunmore has one parish left. We had about 5 or 6 at one time. We have one parish left. St. Anthony's, St. Rocco's, St. Mary's. Now, in Dunmore, they say, oh, that's the Italian church and that's the Irish church. Referencing St. Mary's. Anyway, we're at St. Mary's. A nice new priest. I don't know his name. Anyway, he announced, and Bambera, great job. They renaming the parish. Now, it'll still be St. Mary's Church, St. Anthony's Church, St. Rocco's Church. But the parish is named St. John Paul II. I was ecstatic when he announced that. I think that is so great. So the individual parishes, churches will have their own identity, but the parish is now St. John Paul II. How great. All right. Well, Baccardo Jewelers. I tell you, Cutie is still over the moon with the jewelry I got her at Baccardo's. But it's also a watch store. It's your best jewelry store. They make the stuff. They'll do anything you need. They can make anything you need. They call it bench work. They do it. But it is an amazing watch store. Raymond Weil, Breitling, Oris, Longines, Michelle, Shinola, Luminox, Swiss Army, Seiko, Tory Burch, Victorinox, Bulova, G-Shock, and of course I have the Baccardo Jewelers watch. And as it turns to 11:01, which means it's time for the news on my Baccardo's watch, let's do the news, and then we'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. You know it, baby. Great good morning, everyone. It is 11:08 a.m. on my Picardo Jewelers watch this beautiful Monday, April 27, 2026. Well, that's here in the great Northeast on Long Island, as they say, where our beloved Tootsie Mayor is going to be laid to rest tomorrow. It's the same time. This is Bob Cordaro's show, and I am he. And it's a big day to fight for Americans, defend our values, and honor, with the help of our man John Basiliga and his great Eastern Roofing Systems, the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we've lost this year, but celebrate today, thanks to John. Like my old buddy, Frank Ziggy Chernelia, Scranton, Mike Lasher, Falls, Bruce Rock, Lake Quinn, George Butchie Bakos, Hazleton, John Bo Matika, Nanticoke, and Norman Clancy of Harvey's Lake. So with history, our amazing founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our deep and unalterable commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity to all of you who hearken here. Somebody texted in, and this is true. I'm trying to make sense of it. How can anyone honestly support the Democrat Party's current policies? Beyond stupid, and it's lunacy. The squad took over the Democrat Party. It's more insidious. It's deeper than that. And instead of the Democrat Party rejecting their anti-Israel policies, pro-socialist policies, their leaders caved and adopt them. Follow the money. Follow the money. Remember, we're spending $1 trillion a year on the federal level alone. Never mind the state of Pennsylvania. Never mind local governments. We saw it, unfortunately, as Scranton resident. I saw it as our mayor gave out contract after contract after contract, hundreds of thousands of dollars for all nonsense to consultants, to nonprofits. She actually had a consultant paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to look into crime in the city. The same organization who had no experience in crime research, by the way, but had said that veterans were the main danger point for criminals. This is how nuts this is. This is how nuts these people are. And they will lie to your face as to what they believe and what they are pursuing. But you've got that $1 trillion just on the federal level going to nonprofits and NGOs, and six-figure salaries and jobs and this and that, and then they hire consultants, they hire lawyers, and they're stealing your tax money, which is outrageous. I mentioned the USAID, which all the big protests came up. You know who was protesting? The people who were stealing the money. The people who were stealing the money that never got to any foreign government, foreign people. It's insane. So you've got the nonprofit NGOs. You've got the universities, academia. You've got the public unions, their leadership. You've got foundations. You've got the media. And they all work together in a circle jerk using donated money and government money to push their policies and to grow government so they can get more. And that's what Doge uncovered unequivocally. And that's why they fought like animals to stop Doge. And my hope is Trump revisits Doge after the midterms because they got stymied. Crazy stuff. And this is what they do. And then you've got the actual evil billionaires and billionaire fronts like Arabella, like the Soros family, big Page Cognetti supporters, like Singham, the red communist billionaire, who actually their stated intention is to tear this country down as it was founded. Evil, actual evil. And they own the Democrat Party. And the jackasses like Chuck Schumer, they're just front men for that evil. And that's why the Democrats, you say, well, why did the Democrat Party adopt it? Oh, because that's who supports them. And they get just enough fools to go along with them. And I mean fools. You're not looking. You're not paying attention. You're voting for a Democrat Party that does not exist. Unless you're some kind of left-wing lunatic or you're getting paid, then I could almost understand it. Why you'd want to tear down the greatest country on earth in the process, I'll never understand. For money? What? I don't get it. Somebody said the left will stop, texted in, the left will stop responsible gun owners from shooting off guns, claiming it will reduce violence, yet they refuse to restrict their own violent speech and continue to shoot off their mouths. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's scary. And it's awful. Let's go to our man, Luciano. He's from Luzerne County. Hi, Luciano.
Yes, Bob. Thank you for taking my call. I'll just say this. People out there, please vote. This is the number that was given to me, 202-224-3121. That's to call your Pennsylvania senator and congressman to support Save America Act, the Save Voters Act, the 202-224-3121, that we need to have the Voters Act. You know the correct terminology. Yep. You're a professional lawyer. Yes.
Well, they call it the Save America Act, yeah.
Yes, thank you. And Fetterman, the so-called Fetterman moderate, he voted, as you know, last week to go hand in hand with the 50 other Democratic senators in the United States to support ICE agents and anything connected to deportation and all that. So Fetterman, he's the so-called moderate that I hear on your station say he's the only moderate, he's the only sensible Democrat. Well, no, he did. He voted with the 50
now, by the way, was not said on this show. He occasionally makes sense. Like he just came out and said that's why we need the grand ballroom on the White House grounds, because we can't be going to the Washington Hilton where we can't provide appropriate security.
And my home state, well, my family's home state. I'm from. They live in Texas. Yesterday, it was voted that the Supreme Court voted that redistricting can the governor Abbott of Texas can now redistrict the state, the cities and states. The cities throughout Texas, just like what Virginia did, the Texas is now allowed, due to the Supreme Court in favor of the Republican Supreme Court judges that made it possible. So now the Abbott can do what Virginia did, Bob. And by the way, Bob, there is people on your station that continuously say that we need to negotiate and be complimentary to these Democrats. What moderate, sensible Democrat exists?
How do you negotiate with an insane person? How do you negotiate insane policies? I could go through the list. Oh, we shouldn't have let 20 million people into the country with the open border. We should have only let 10 million in. We shouldn't let all murderers out on no cash bail. Just half of them. I mean, it's insanity.
And Bob, as you know, as a Catholic and as a Christian, there are demonic forces that still exist in this world. The Bible says that Satan and all his angels still exist on planet Earth, and that's who's manipulating and controlling many Democratic politicians and their supporters.
Well, that's where the money comes from.
Follow the money, brother.
That's where
Thank
it
you,
comes
Bob.
from.
Thank
All right.
you, brother.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. All right, Luciano.
Thank you.
Hey, that means we got to take a break. When Luciano's done, that means we're done for the moment. We want to hear from our great sponsors, and we also want to give a little history, a little music, and remind you that this hour is brought to you by our dear friend, the ray of sunshine, Tina Morocco, Global Sales Advisor at Sotheby's International in Naples. You can look her up at Sotheby's in Naples, or go right to the source, Tina Morocco, MURACCO.com, your trusted real estate advisor for all of Florida, specializing in Southwest Florida. And then, if you want to see my smiling moon face, scowling sometimes, Roach Supply, the premier bath and kitchen supplier in Northeast Pennsylvania, celebrating 75 years in business, into the fourth generation. And Ron Roach, veteran Ron Roach in his 90s, still making it happen up there. Visit Roach Supply, ROCHE, roachsupply.com, or stop in at Chapman Supply in Clark Summit. They just do it right, and they've been doing it great for all those decades. We'll take this break. We'll be back. Don Henley, Murph tells us he moved into the top 10 charts at number 10 with All She Wants to Do is Dance. Bob Cordaro back with you on this program dedicated to the late, great Tootsie Mayer. Bob Cordaro back with you. We're going to be talking with Estefano DeSanto. He's going to be at the Kirby Center Saturday night. And we got to love him. He's a character. He came up with this. I said, hey, yeah, we want him on. We want to talk to him. He's going to be on at 11:35 after the Veterans Tribute and the weather. And he's going to talk to me about that show and what he's up to. But he came up with this, I don't know, like a billboard for the whole, just for his appearance, which I thought was fantastic. Somebody texting in that's called the Save America Act. Majority Leader Senator John Thune just as bad as Mitch McConnell, if not worse. I'm not going to agree with you because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Somebody says fire Thune and get rid of the filibuster, which is 100% correct. He may not have the votes to get rid of the filibuster. Remember, you got Susan Collins. You've got Mikulski from Alaska. Horrible. Collins, at least you could count on her once in a while. You got Rand Paul, who's just the contrarian. I love him, but he's a contrarian. And you've got Mitch McConnell. I don't think he has the votes to get rid of the filibuster, even if he supports it. And part of their job is to take the flag as majority leader and not expose senators to vote. I know, but you have to. That's how the club works. So he's not necessarily bad. I don't know, but they've got to blow up the filibuster. I got to tell you, I mean, our own Senator McCormick is probably against it. So it's very hard to say, and I don't have any inside info, and that which I do have, I have some inside info. That which I do have, I can't share with you because it's been provided confidentially. But I don't think they have the votes to get rid of the filibuster because of those 4 clowns. Well, 3 clowns and one contrarian. In any event. It's just what it is. Somebody says, here's all you need to know about Thune. He made sure Trump would not get a single recessed judicial appointment. He's a traitor. I'm not going to go that far with you yet, but I'm very disappointed. That's all that's as far as I guess we could go. Because you're right, the Democrats are going to get rid of the filibuster as soon as they control the Senate, if they ever do. In 2 minutes, it'll be their first act. And then they'll go on to do grave destruction. That's what they do. I'm not all the way there with Thune yet as a Mitch McConnell. And by the way, I would go back to Mitch McConnell. In Trump's first term, he had great accomplishments, legislative accomplishments. And Mitch McConnell got them done. His judicial appointments, Mitch McConnell got them done. He turned old, feeble, and foolish. And now he's a disaster. Now he's a net negative. That's just what is. He's a creature of the swamp. The wife working for whether she was in the cabinet or working for NGOs or working for China, disaster. Somebody said at the very least, same person, they should bring back the speaking filibuster, make them work for it. Speaking filibuster, though, would just waste time. It would just waste time, legislative time, precious legislative time we don't have. Remember, there's 50 Democrat senators, 40-some. They could all do an hour and rotate. Nobody will even lose a wink of sleep. Speaking filibuster is not the answer. Getting rid of it is the only answer to legislative success. And they're going to try through reconciliation to get a lot of things done. Let's hope they're successful as the big mediocre bill was last year. We'll see. We will see. All right. We're going to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll hear from our great sponsors, Veterans Tribute, weather, a little video we have, and then we're going to talk with Estefano De Santo. We'll be back. Our Veterans Tribute this hour brought to you, as always, by our man John Basiliga, featuring on Mondays, as we always do, Eastern Roofing Systems. His first company, his biggest company, the premier roofing contractor in the eastern United States. Commercial, institutional, industrial purposes, and they bring all that expertise, they bring all that buying power right back to Northeast Pennsylvania because they're headquartered in Jessup. And they'll do your home, the roof on your house. They'll do your project. Big, small, they'll do it. Eastern Roofing Systems. John Matika, nicknamed Bo. He was from Nanticoke. We lost him January 9th. A quiet soul who found joy in life's simple pleasures. He could often be found tending to his pear tree, tinkering with anything that needed fixing, or carefully crafting grandfather clocks. His steady hands and thoughtful nature were evident in all he did. John proudly served his country and the United States Navy, traveling the world during his years of service. Closer to home, he cherished the time he spent with his friends at the Nanticoke American Legion. The camaraderie, the shared stories brought him great comfort and happiness. Preceded in death by his mom and his dad, his stepfather, sisters. John Bo Matika. Norman Clancy. We lost him April 10th. He was from Harvey's Lake. He was 85. Born in Wilkes-Barre, a graduate from Benjamin Franklin High School in Manhattan, where he excelled in basketball. He served all of us in the U.S. Army Reserves, 1963 to 1969. Norman retired from Roadway Express as a truck driver after 35 years. Received a ton of safe driving awards. He was a member of the Harvey's Lake Assembly of God Church. He was an avid woodchuck hunter. And he was a good roller skater, another roller skater among our veterans. He loved outdoor activities, hunting, fishing, being with his family. In addition to his parents, he was preceded in death by his wife, Diane. He's survived by 4 children, their spouses, 6 grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and other family members. Norman Clancy. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Eastern Roofing Systems. AccuWeather forecast brought to you by our gang, well, we love them, up at Montage Mountain. Today, sunny to partly cloudy and pleasant. It'll be about 75 degrees. It's 65 at Montage Mountain right now. Tonight, clear to partly cloudy, low of 44. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and cooler, a couple of showers in the afternoon. It'll get up to about 64 with a low of 49. Wednesday, cloudy with a couple of showers in the afternoon, high 62, low 48. Thursday, cloudy and breezy, high 55, low 35. Friday, windy with sun and some clouds, high 57, low 37. And that's your weather, brought to you by our great friends at Montage Mountain Resort. Says Monarch. Murph says this date, 1998, they were moving up the charts with their hit Closing Time. Hey, Bulldog, we got to play Sinatra today. We got to sneak him in. Speaking of music, well, there's a great show going on April 2nd, this Saturday, at Kirby Center. And we've been talking to the artists who will be there all last week. And I said, well, come on, we got to have more. Well, there is. There's Stefano DeSanto. He's going to lead off the program. And we're looking forward to his performance. And here he is now, in person, on the phone. Stefano, how are you?
I'm good, Bob. How are you today?
It's great. I love that little billboard you came up with.
Thank you very much.
Obviously
something special for an amazing man that does so much for the music community and all of everybody in Pennsylvania. You got to take care of those that take care of you.
Well, it's
and
good
without
stuff.
a guy like yourself promoting these shows, maybe we wouldn't even have an opportunity to perform.
Stefano, how old are you?
Oh, I'm just ripe age of 39.
So you're the kid. I mean, you're the kid.
I'm the kid.
And I love that you're keeping, along with obviously the famous practitioners, you're keeping all of this together and bringing a new generation into the oldies.
Well, I have to tell you, my mother told me never to tell a fib. So I'm really 52. I used to not want to tell my age in the business because you wouldn't get booked. But I've been told that my voice is of a 39-year-old recently.
There you go.
From some amazing acts. Because it took me some time to get out into the world where people could hear me. But I'm so glad. Age is just a number to me. I'll tell you, 39 days, 39 events, 39 hours of pure music with these national acts. It's been a whirlwind. And we have an amazing show for you on May the 2nd at the Kirby Center. I'm so excited making my professional debut in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
I've never performed there after all these years, so this is wonderful.
Jay and the Americans, Brooklyn Bridge, the Duprees, all of them, and Estefano. All right. What are we going to hear from you?
You are going to hear some music of the 50s that we've recreated, changed it up a bit. So I don't want to tell you what songs specifically.
Okay.
But we're going to do some songs from the new album, Rock Around the Clock, that we've taken and we've rebranded them to hit to the younger generation. Like you said, yes, I am one of the younger guys on the show. There are some other guys out there on the tours that do a wonderful job. However, they don't know me on the East Coast a lot. Even though I'm from New England originally, I actually spent 20 years in Las Vegas performing on and off the Las Vegas Strip. So coming this way, it's a great opportunity to bring something different. So I like to bring a Las Vegas-style show to the East Coast with this oldies music. So I've had the opportunity to talk to Dion, sit down and talk to him about how great his music of the 50s was, and bringing that back in, singing some songs from the Duprees, the Brooklyn Bridge. And as I did that, I had the opportunity to, by my producers of the shows, to say, hey, we got to get you with these guys, talk to them, see how they want to keep it alive. So I've had that opportunity to bring my flair and my interpretation of their amazing music to the stage for all audience members, whether it be 35 to 85. We're getting at shows right now. It's great musicians and great music that's going to last a lifetime. You know, Elvis Presley's been gone 50-something years, but his music is played just as though he was still alive today.
Yep. Estefano DeSanto is our guest. He's a Las Vegas headliner who's going to lead off the show of Saturday, May 2nd at the Kirby, 7 o'clock. Jay and the Americans, Brooklyn Bridge, the Duprees. And so you'll lead it off. How did you hook up with these guys? Tell us a little bit about your career.
Well, I was performing out in Las Vegas, and I was at the show, a show called the Dennis Bono Show at the South Point Hotel and Casino, promoting my show in a different casino. And a gentleman by the name of Harry G was there to see me perform. And he thought I was going to do something from the oldies circuit, but I didn't. I was actually scheduled to sing an Italian opera song called Conte Partero, made famous by Sarah Brightman and Andrea Bocelli. I sang the song as a solo and lit the place up because it was something new to them, even though it was a very recognizable song. But the audience loved it, and Harry said to me, I think you are something special. He came to see my show for 6 weeks in Las Vegas, where I sang everything from the 50s to today's music in 4 languages. And he said, this is a guy that is well-rounded, is well-versed, and whether it's country, rock, opera, oldies, we need something like this. So you asked, I can tell you specifically, I will be doing music of the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to do a beautiful patriotic song, as you just recognize the veterans, which I always recognize in every one of my shows. And then I am going to present an Italian opera song at the show. So I'm really excited. I have the support of my friends, Tommy Patillo, and everyone at the Duprees. And, of course, you recognize Jimmy Rizika the other day. Jimmy just came to my show at the Tropicana Atlantic City. And I was so honored that he drove 7.5 hours to come and see my show live in concert. So it's one of those great support systems. And, you know, of course, you have friends in the business locally that you can support each other. But when national acts are coming to your show and wanting to support you and working with them, and the best part of it, Bob, very quickly, is to turn around during tech rehearsal and see Bobby Miranda, who I've worked with before, and I have a show coming up with him, sitting in the wings, or Brian Hyland and whatnot, watching me perform. And then I'm waiting for them to say something, and they just look at me and smile. And then later on, they go, "We didn't say." I said, "Why didn't you say anything? No tips?" They said, "You're just fine, young man. Just keep doing what you're doing." That was pretty cool, you know? So, but working with these groups, this is a lifetime opportunity that you only dream about as a kid. I know it sounds cliche, but I'm literally working with these national acts, and it's a whirlwind. Believe me when I tell you.
When did you discover, hey, not only do I love music, but I've got the chops to be a pro? When did that come to you?
Well, of course, every child and every family member always says, "Oh, he's going to be a singer," this or anything. It really hit me. I started very young at 5 at Disneyland. I was out on vacation, and I sang A Small World, and the people there recognized me, went to my family, and said something to my mom. However, what ended up transpiring is I ended up going to Los Angeles to do a television show. I was working on a soap opera called Days of Our Lives. And when I was doing that, I ended up working with NBC on a couple of other shows. And while I was waiting to go into the studio, I was sitting there singing a song by Al Jolson. And this young man came over to me and said, "Hey, do you sing regularly?" I said, "Yeah, but I'd like to." He said, "Come over here. I got to introduce you to so-and-so." And I already knew the gentleman, Joseph Moscolo, who was on Days of Our Lives. He said, "Sing for him." And I said, "Okay." So I sang a song called Caro Mio Ben. And he said, it's one of the first Italian arias. He's an opera singer. And he said to me, "Young man, you have something. Let's put this together." And then I said, "Okay, well, let me try." He said, "Try this, try that, and let's pick a genre for you." And then as I got these other people that recognized me, that's when I said, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I have something. But I fell in love with not just the singing, the entertainment part of it.
Yeah.
Because anybody could be a good singer, Bob. Anybody can be a great musician. But if you can capture an audience and give them something to make them enjoy themselves, that's what I love to do. That's the enjoyment for me. That's where the love and the passion comes from. It comes from the energy of the audience. When you give them something that they love, that's it. That's the golden key right there, man. That's it.
That's great stuff. We are blessed to have you come in with Jay and the Americans, Brooklyn Bridge, the Duprees. Honored to have you on the show as well. Stefano DeSanto, he's going to start it all off at 7 o'clock on Saturday at the Kirby Center. Joe Nardone bringing it all together, and we thank you for coming on and giving us your time, and we love the fact that you're coming here to Northeast PA.
Well, thank you very much. I'll be seeing everybody there, and I would love to take a picture with everybody in that audience after the show. So.
Amen. Amen. There he is, a troubadour in the real sense. Stefano DeSanto.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you, my man. Hey, we got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll be back. Well, it's Biden banner disgrace, day 133. Biden banner disgrace, stolen valor. Day 133, the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association, to their great disgrace, has put up a hometown hero banner for Joe Biden. The hometown hero banners, however, are meant for veterans, and Biden dodged service multiple times. Please take the banner down. Stop embarrassing yourselves and others. Biden banner disgrace, day 133. Contact the Green Ridge Neighborhood Association Facebook page or website and let them know, civilly, I point out, we've had enough. Take it down. He's not a veteran. He's a disgrace. Honor him any way you wish if you're that dumb, but take the banner down. Biden banner disgrace, day 133. So you get the live stream, and I've got my all-time great T-shirt on. And by the way, we're finishing, because Murph tells us this date, 1969, Joe Cocker. He made his television debut on the Ed Sullivan Show, performing his version of Feeling All Right. And I said that's a good way to end, isn't it? God bless our Tootsie Mayor, who we lost last week. She'll be buried tomorrow. Her service is tomorrow. And we want to thank our friends for bringing the live stream to you. Roach Supply, R-O-C-H-E, RoachSupply.com, premier bath and kitchen supplier in Northeast PA. For 75 years, a Johnny-come-lately. Amazing. Great company. The place for your bathroom and kitchen needs. And Tina Morocco brought you this hour. Global Sales Advisor, Premier Sotheby's International, Naples, Florida. Check her out at Naples, Sotheby's International, Naples. And you can go direct to the source, Tina Morocco, MURACCO.com. Your trusted guide to Florida real estate, specializing in Southwest Florida. Tina Morocco. Guys, great to be back with you. Love it. You know that. And God willing, I'll be with you tomorrow. But we're going to let Cocker finish it up here. So I will gavel to a close today's meeting of the Club for Common Sense. Have a great afternoon, guys. We are adjourned.